These are in listen-only mode.
Hello everybody, welcome to our webinar here this evening. This is the Dig Deep Coaching Nutrition webinar. Thank you very much for everybody who's attending, and we hopefully will be able to get through as much information as possible. Tonight what we're going to do is we're going to go through a lot of the questions that people have asked. There's been a wide range of questions that people have come in and asked, and hopefully we'll be able to get through as many as possible. You'll appreciate we aren't able to get through everything, but I'm sure you'll be able to take away something to help. So thanks very much. Dig Deep Coaching is a global cycling and triathlon coaching company where we coach athletes of all levels across the globe. We're very lucky to have a large team of coaches and specialists that work alongside us to bring around a service to the everyday cyclist and everyday triathlete to help meet their aims and objectives. A critical part of any sort of coaching and training and development is, of course, nutrition. We're very lucky to have an expert such as Rob van der Werf with us, who has a wealth of knowledge and brings around a fantastic service to all our athletes. So we're going to get going here because we have quite a bit to go through. So with us, as I said, is Rob van der Werf. Rob is in Holland. If you'd like to say hello, Rob.
Hello everybody.
Rob is, as many of you will know, is the nutritionist for the Giant Alpecin team with riders such as Declan Culp and Tom Dumoulin. So we obviously know that he works with some of the most highest ranked athletes and cyclists in the world. So we'll be able to dive into a bit of that knowledge and get some tips from the professional peloton. And I'm Stephen Gallagher, and I'm one of the directors here at Dig Deep Coaching. So I'll be able to chip in and try and give a wee bit of my knowledge as well. But what we're going to do is I'm going to go through a lot of the questions that has obviously been asked, and we'll see how we can get along. So apologies if I don't get through all the questions or ones that you asked, but you will see there in your little box there with your control panel, there is a bit that you can type in questions, and depending on how we're going during the actual evening, you can type in some questions into that, and at the end of it we might have time to get through some of the questions there as well. Maybe there's something you want to expand on, maybe there's something that you want to get a little bit more knowledge on, so please put a question in there and I'll try and get to you later on. We're also recording this, so we'll be sending this recording out to everybody as well after, so everybody will be able to go back through the information. So if you don't hear it, or maybe it's not so clear, you'll be able to get a chance to go through it after it. So again, would like to thank everybody for coming along here this evening. So okay, let's get cracking. The first section we're going to talk about is nutrition during competition and training. Obviously it's critical in every sport, and certainly every level of sport, is the nutrition that is needed during training and during competition. We'll be going into post competition and daily routines later on, but we're going to ask some questions here on exactly during competition. Okay, so Rob, the first question is from Mike, and he's asking here, prior to a ride and during a ride, is it right that gels should only be used for the latter part of a ride? So energy gels, which we all use every so often and are quite common now in many sportifs and cycle racing. Is it this product should only really be used at the end of a ride, or should it be used in other times of your training and racing?
The most important thing why we need gels, it's I normally recommend to use it on time when it's in the beginning or in the middle of the last part of the race, or in the ride when you have really hard effort or hill climbing. The reason behind that is it's really difficult to chew on a bar or a sandwich during high effort when your heart rate is 180 beats per minute. So it's really depending on it in the beginning of the race or the end of the race. So I normally recommend to use it on the high intensity parts. So when you do efforts in your training, it's good to use the gels, and then you can see how your body is reacting on it. And then in the race you can also use it. So normally I recommend always to use gels in training to test them. So don't use it every day. And then during the cyclo or marathon or what kind of thing you will do, you can use it in that kind of way.
Mm-hmm. So even whenever it is like in training, if you're doing high intensity training, maybe very high intensive interval training, but maybe the training isn't so long, you would still maybe use gels to be able to get your nutrition in, the adequate nutrition to perform them efforts to the best possible. You would still say, okay, it's okay to use gels even in that.
Yeah. You have to see it like this. Your body has glycogen stored in your body. It's stored in your blood, your liver, and in your muscles. And it's really depending on how the training is and how trained you are and how intense the training is, how fast the glycogen storage is empty. Normally it's around 60 to 90 minutes when you have a high intensity training, but when you have an easy endurance ride, after 4 hours, when you don't eat or drink something, it's also empty.
Mm-hmm.
You have to eat or drink.
And gels is one way that obviously we can get that in and get it quick. What about whenever it's very hot? I know from my own experience of racing, sometimes gels can be quite hard to digest. When it's in the heat, is there a different method that you would use gels, or is it just get used to it and hopefully your body can cope with taking the gels?
Yeah, the most important thing is the body to get used to the carbohydrates. When you never use carbohydrates in training, you really have a problem during races. And that's we have other questions about that. So I think it's better to do that later on.
Okay.
About the carbohydrate.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much. Okay, so the next question is fueling for long rides between 3 to 5 hours. I suppose before, during, and after. This is obviously a very popular question. Many people have asked about fueling for long rides. So, is there any, I suppose, rule of thumb or anything that a lot of us can take for fueling for long rides between 3 to 5 hours? So, we're looking at some extensive training here.
Yeah, the most important thing is drinking. We on the bike, we do often sweat, and sweating is for keeping your body temperature on the low part. So I would normally recommend also when it is cold to drink at least 1 bottle an hour. So that's around 500 milliliters. And when it is hot, you have to drink more, say around 1 liter each hour. And you can check that when your urine has a clear color, then you have to drink enough during that ride or before or after. And about the fueling part, I think when you do training rides above 3 or 5 hours, I really recommend to have already from the first hour on to have at least 60 grams of carbohydrate till 90 grams of carbohydrate for each hour. And a lot of riders, athletes don't know how much carbohydrates are in bars or in drinks or in sandwiches or all kind of things that you can eat on the bike. And when you make for yourself a plan about what's in there, you can always make it easy what you have to eat every hour. When I'm training, I know when I go for 5 hours, I have to bring, for example, 6 bananas and some sandwiches. And I try to eat every hour around 60 to 90 grams of carbohydrates. And the funny thing is then your heart rate is still more stable also in the end when you're doing an easy long ride. It's about fueling and about drinking about that.
You know, it's very interesting you say about first of all about the hydration. You know, your body making sure that it's well hydrated during training, especially in the cold weather. A lot of us here obviously in Northern Europe are starting to come into the winter time. And one of the areas that I see with a lot of athletes that I work with, they reinforce as well is the hydration being critical in the winter time as what it is in the summer. And a lot of people feel okay, it's cold, I don't need to drink as much, but maybe they're sweating more. They obviously have a lot more clothes on. Maybe if it's raining, they have a rain cape, and they finish a lot of winter training quite dehydrated. Obviously, you can see that from your urine, and maybe they're not prioritizing that as much as maybe during the spring to summer time. I think that's a very good
can
point.
also easily check it. It's not completely right, but when you check your body weight just before you ride, and only in your BEP short, say it's around 70 kilograms, and you do the ride, then afterwards your body weight is dropped, for example, to 68 kilograms. You lose 2 kilograms only about hydration. So that means that you're more than 2% already lost from your body weight, and that's really decreasing also the power output in your on your power meter.
Yeah, and also keeping the heart rate pretty steady as well for the effort that you're doing. So I think we'll be expanding on that answer as well as we go along, I think, with other questions. So another one is from Kevin, and he's asking about middle distance triathlon fueling. So for triathlon, obviously we're dealing with running, swimming, and cycling. So middle distance triathlon, maybe I think it's maybe a 7:03. So what's your recommendation for triathlon, and what is the difference with triathlon to cycling?
Yeah, the most difficult part is you have 3 different kind of sports in one race. So in the swimming part, it's really difficult to drink instead of swimming water. But normally I don't recommend that to drinking. So what you can do is just before the start, I say 1 or 2 minutes before the start, you can take a gel. So then you already your body starts with have a little bit extra of energy, and also you can drink around 250 milliliters of sport drink, and it makes a little bit of a buffer in your body, and that can help for the first part of the swimming parts. And afterwards you go on the bike, and then it's really important to stay hydrated and get the right fueling, and that you recommend to have also, like I just said before, to around the 60 to 90 grams of carbohydrate for each hour. And it's the same afterwards when you jump off the bike, you go running. Still then it's really important to stay hydrated and get fueled. So the 60 grams and 90 grams of carbohydrate is still the main goal to reach every hour. And you really have to train yourself in the training to get used to that.
Yeah, I know a lot of the triathletes that we work with find it very difficult to, consume solids, certainly in the run. And also even some people have problems with hydration in the run. And I suppose trying to train that obviously in training, trying to get used to it in training as much as possible, and trying to be able to take some fluid and nutrition on without having a stitch, your body hard to digest is critical as well. And I do know from experience of coaching triathletes and duathletes that a lot of races have been lost. A lot of PBs have been lost as well because of failing to be able to hydrate and take on proper nutrition.
It's really funny. All the riders or athletes, we stop a lot of effort to train as much, to eat enough, to be perfect on the day that you have the triathlon or the cyclo. But also when you do marathon running, for example, everybody is fucked up about after 30k, and that's really when your glycogen stores are empty. And when you don't train yourself to eat and drink, you will always have the same problem.
Yeah, and I suppose no matter if it's on a marathon or in triathlon or cycling, again, if you have the intensity and you're burning the calories and the sweat rate is the same, we have to keep to a certain hydration level and being able to get the most out of our competition.
It's also training your mind. When you never train yourself in training to eat, you don't do it in your race.
Yeah. So what you don't do in training, you will never do in a race because it doesn't become a habit. I think that's maybe the key. Again, one of my old managers and coaches that I used to live with when I was a young rider in France used to say, what you do in training is what you do in racing. He was talking about how you fuel, how you hydrate, but also how you approach you mentally, how you approach your training. So yeah, I think it's very, very good rule of thumb. And just one last question in that section from Keith. Keith is asking nutrition for endurance exercise. I think we have covered quite a bit on it, but you know, is there anything else you want to reinforce for nutrition for endurance exercise? Some real rules of thumb and key sections there of what we have talked about.
Now we just already talked about the 60 or 90 grams of carbohydrate. A lot of brands in these days had a combination of two different kind of sugars. The one is glucose, and the other one is fructose, is a fruit sugar. When you combine those two things, those two sugars, you can reach the 90 grams, maybe 110 grams of carbohydrates for each hour. I know guys that are doing the Ironman, for example, they can reach 120 grams of carbohydrates for each hour.
Okay.
And then you can only reach that when you're doing that. Also train yourself in the training to do that. That your body is, it's training your gut. When you don't train your gut, you always will get maybe some stomach problems about that.
And even the with the change of intensity, so let's talk about maybe a 5-hour sportif, okay, which is maybe not really high anaerobic intensity, VO2, but certainly we're in the endurance tempo zone for quite prolonged periods of time. Is still the 60 to 90 grams per hour similar to that if you were doing maybe a 3-hour race, 4-hour high intensity road race or a mountain bike race?
Yeah, it's still the same.
Still the same. Yeah. I think it's even at that stage it's difficult to, like you said, to train yourself to take more, and certainly it is not advisable to take really any less than 60 grams, even in variants of people's body weight as well. So okay, so thanks very much. I know there's a lot of questions coming in to the panel, so thanks very much, people. I'm going to try and get through as much as possible later on at the end. So okay, so going on to the next section. So pre and post training and racing nutrition strategies. Next question is from Jason, and Jason is asking Rob here what to eat after cycling. So let's look at maybe what types of food you recommend, and maybe the quantities of different types of foodstuffs to take after cycling.
I think there are two things that are really important, that are the carbohydrates. And the carbohydrates looks in the studies even more and more important than the proteins. And the whole reason is behind that is to refill your glycogen source. What they recommend is to eat every hour, for example, around 1 gram a kilogram body weight after a race, when you reach yourself to the limit. But my advice is normally when you finish your race, for example, about 3 a.m. or 3 p.m. Try to get as fast as possible in your normal structure of the day. So that means that you can take a recovery drink or a recovery meal afterwards. And normally that contains around 15 till 25 grams of protein, and then say around 60 to 90 grams of carbohydrates. That's the perfect combination of for the body for recovering after a race. And then try to drink to hydrate yourself again, and try as fast as possible back in your normal rhythm of the day with meals and snacks.
I think what you're saying there about, I suppose, getting your body back into its normal routine as quickly as possible after a race, so it's in line and tune with what it normally does, is very important, as much as, you know, getting the right nutrition in that 20 minutes to half hour after the race.
Yeah, and then it's important to have a little bit more fast sugared or fast carbohydrates, like white bread or something, instead of the whole bread. It's faster. It helps faster recovering yourself. Your body can adapt it more easier.
And for, say, for athletes of different ages, maybe for older athletes, would you change that strategy of after race? Would you change a nutrition strategy for an older athlete than maybe a younger athlete?
No, I think it's even more important for older athletes to have the proteins because you have to contain your muscle mass, and then the proteins are much more important.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great, thank you. We're probably going to be expanding quite a bit on these questions. So another question from Martin. Pre-race day and rest day nutrition. And also he's asking about caffeine protocol and macronutrient targets. So there's quite a broad range. So pre-race day and rest day nutrition. So maybe during a stage race or a multi-day event, rest day, and I suppose pre-race day. So there's a couple of questions in that, I suppose.
There are really a lot of questions in one question.
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
Pre-race, I think a lot of people normally forget when they start the race on Sunday that they have to drink and hydrate yourself the whole week. The day itself, it helps a little bit, but when you don't drink a lot during the whole week and don't have a proper nutrition during the whole week, your glycogen stores don't recover in one day.
Mm-hmm.
People always think that, and that is not true. You have to be really careful in what you're doing in the whole days, and it's the same like nutrition on a rest day. When is a rest day a rest day? That's the first question. Is that between the 3-day block what you had, and then one rest day, and then again 3 days? I think that rest day is not even is a rest day, but for your body it's not a rest day because the body needs that to recover and build up the glycogen stores already.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have no proper nutrition in the 3 days before, yeah, the other 3 days what's going to be hard. It's going to be even harder because there are so many studies done about how hard you find the training and you find your effort. It has a perfect combination with mentally with the emptiness of the glycogen source. So harder the training is, how emptier the glycogen stores are. So then you did something wrong in your nutrition plan.
Okay. So people need to look at what they're doing in the week leading up to it or the 3 days leading up to a major goal than just what they eat the night before and the morning of the race. So is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Which I think again all of us are guilty to doing. And again, I remember from different teams that we had one manager used to say to me, what you eat 2 days before a race is as important as what you eat the day before a race. So I suppose it's maybe a little broader than that, but that sort of mentality is correct. That it's looking at what you do every day.
I had one race in the past that I eat the day before I eat French fries. There was nothing else what I can do, but I still performed pretty well. So it doesn't mean the one day it's important, but the days even before that they are way more important.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And what about caffeine protocols? A little on caffeine? Caffeine maybe for competition, I take it?
Yeah. My advice is to have, for example, when you have a TT, take the caffeine 1 hour before the start of the TT. The body needs around 60 minutes to build up and to adapt the caffeine. So that's why the whole reason for 1 hour. And the fine thing is when I do a road race, a lot of people always take the final things in the last 15 minutes. And then, the caffeine is only working when you are in the shower. Mm-hmm. So that's makes no sense.
Yeah.
And mentally, it can even be better to have the 3 days before the race to have no caffeine.
Mm-hmm.
Then it works only mentally. It works better. And when you take, for example, around 2 to 3 milligrams a kilogram body weight, so I say you weigh around 70 kilograms, so that means around 200 milligrams of caffeine. 1 hour before the start of the race, cyclo, cyclo, what kind of things what you want to do, and then the caffeine stays there on a high level for around 4 to 5 hours.
I think it's a really big, again, misconception of what we see is the people taking a caffeine gel purely to get the caffeine 10 minutes before the start of a 45-minute cyclocross race or a criterium race, and it's starting to kick in when they're in the shower. And yeah, I think again, changing that misconception of how quick and the amount of time that caffeine can be of an effect. And another thing, just from my own personal experience from riders, is if you are going to take quite a bit of caffeine, is again going back to what Rob said, is practicing it in training first before doing it in racing, because some people have different effects, cause cramps in their stomach. It's maybe hard to digest, or they feel it's maybe dehydrating them slightly, or again, from a mental side, it's always good to do as much as possible in training and get used to it. So, but certainly not to be taking that much of caffeine before every training ride, but make sure you're getting used to it.
I really look also on the package of the gel, because normally a gel contains only 25 milligrams of caffeine.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So you need a lot of gels.
Yeah,
so that's
you
the
need a lot of
question.
gels. Or have
Is
good
it worth
coffee.
to take gels? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That
Good
makes
coffee.
the same effect.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, another question in here from Jesse is how to balance intense training and nutrition to recover fully and not gain weight. So not gain weight after training, and what's the best way to recover adequately but without having to worry about putting weight on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a nice one. I start with 1 kilogram of fat, what everybody has, what I have, what Stefan has, what you guys have. 1 kilogram contains around 7,000 calories. That's really a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That's when you contain a bit normal food, it's say seven bowls of chips, for example, what you have to eat to gain 1 kilogram. So when you're standing on the scale for every day, it's always fluctuating, and you don't see 1 kilogram you cannot gain in one day. It's really not possible. It's always about hydration, if you went to the toilet on the right way, that kind of thing. So day to day, you see always differences, but it doesn't mean that you gain fat in one day. It is not possible.
Okay. So,
and how you can balance your intense training and your nutrition to recover. There are a lot of guidelines about that. For example, the amount of protein and fat has to be stable, and if you have an easy day, hard day, rest day, what kind of day, that has to be stable during every time. So the carbohydrates are the most fluctuating thing what you can do. So when you have an easy day, it has to be, say, around 3 grams a kilogram body weight. But when you have a really hard week, maybe you need around 10 grams a kilogram body weight. So that's the most fluctuating thing to recover after high intensity training, because when you do high intensity training, your carbohydrates, the glycogen stores are empty every day. So you have to rebuild it every day.
So we shouldn't be worrying. I think this, eating maybe slightly more after an intense training session isn't going to put weight on. It's what you do in the week or the 2 days or 3 days or 4 days after, and not balancing the carbohydrate intake to the training that you're doing. So prioritizing what you eat 24/7 rather than just worrying about maybe eating too much after one training ride is going to put weight on. And of course, as you say, you can drink more and put weight on after training. I think what's interesting is a lot of the guys, even in the Tour de France and the Vuelta and whatnot, if the nutrition is really good, they don't lose too much weight, or gain too much weight during the weeks, you know. So certainly in modern days.
They stay stable during the whole week, 3 weeks, when they were doing it on the right way.
Yeah, yeah. So
And yeah, so one thing what I want to have clear is a lot of people, when you don't eat and drink properly on the bike when you're training, everybody has problem afterwards when you lunch or your dinner. Yeah, you have so much more hunger, and that's the whole reason why it's really difficult to have a balanced nutrition.
yeah, which is what a lot of us don't do, is getting that
Yeah,
balance.
yeah,
But yeah, that's something we all need to prioritize and think about, not just the day before the race, during a race, or right after. Again, thinking about our nutrition 24/7. Another question here, Rob, is are there any advantages to taking on more water the day before a race?
no. It's about the whole week.
Yeah.
You cannot have a hydrated. For example, when you go to the sun and you have a really high race in hot temperature, your body has to acclimate in that kind of thing, in that kind of way. And the same like when you go to the other part of the world, when you have jet lag or sort kind of things, you need time to recover about that. And it's all about adaptation. Your body needs to adapt what it is to be in the heat.
Mm-hmm.
And for example, this year in the start in Holland about the Tour de France, it was incredible hot, and then yeah, the riders have to stay cooled as long as possible before the team or before the time trial, and they stay in the bus, airco on, and they in our team we give them ice to lowering down the body weight temperature, and they also doing that during the warming up of the TT. It's when and there are a lot of studies about that when you're lowering down the body weight, of trying to balance the body weight temperature. It has so much benefits in the TT, because your body temperature is raising to 39, maybe 40 degrees,
Mm-hmm.
and that's only when you have fever you have it also. So your body is so hot, and when you don't cool it with drinking or a kind of strategy about ice for that kind of thing of cooling, yeah, you're overheating your body, and then you don't perform very well. You can do it one day, but when you have a stage race for about 40 to 21 days, yeah, you're fucked up.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, there's lots, and I think we've got again a lot of questions coming in here on that as well. So we're going to try and get through as much as possible, so we can get through some of the questions that you're putting in there to the chat box. So thanks very much everybody for getting through. Okay, so we're going to go to daily nutrition habits. Probably a little bit what we have talked about there, I suppose, not just during, before, or after training, but okay, daily nutrition habits. So this is from Richard, and he's asking on rest day nutrition and calorie requirements. So for on a rest day nutrition, what sort of calorie requirements would you have for rest day compared to maybe whenever he was training or racing or whatnot? So how would you balance your rest day?
It's really different between everybody. I think when you want to have a more balanced nutrition, also on training days and rest days, you have to start to get a regular pattern during the day. That means a breakfast, a snack, a lunch, a snack, dinner, and also a snack in the evening. When you have a really structured doing that during every day, and you have the same amount of calories every day, say around 3,000 calories every day, then you know about after 2 weeks what is happening with your body weight. If it's going up, then you know one thing, then you eat too much or you train too less. And when it's dropping, for example, with 1 kilogram in 2 weeks, then you know that you are in the right way, because the training is then only the fluctuating thing. And then you can adapt also the amount of calories. And that's also the thing what I do by myself. When I'm in the season, I try to have a really rigorous schedule pattern. I eat every morning. I eat the same things, the same almonds and snacks, and also the lunch. And only when I have hard training rides, or long rides, or easy rides, then I'm skipping a little things. Then I, instead of, for example, instead of 12 slices of bread, I eat 6 slices of bread on a rest day. And that's also depending on how big you are, how heavy you are. So everybody has a different type of the amount of calories that you have to take. And there are guidelines, but they are pretty theoretic, and you have to find first your balance in what is your own balance, energy balance. And you can calculate it with a lot of apps in these days. You have MyFitnessPal, you can combine it with training speaks, and then you can also see what you are doing and what you are eating.
Yeah, I think from a coaching perspective and from watching athletes, some of the thing that I see is that on a rest day, they let their routine go slightly. And I always say to athletes that a rest day to really maximize the recovery and to maximize the rest, especially if you've been training hard or you've been doing a lot of competition. You can make bigger adaptations in your rest day, performance-wise, if you get your nutrition right, just by the quality of the food that you're eating. I see some people that on a rest day they'll go and eat, bad food or takeaways or something like that maybe isn't a quality food because, okay, they think I'm not training today or I'm resting so I can eat what you want. But really the quality of food that you can get in the rest day, your body's recovering, your body's adapting, is as critical as what it is than whenever you're just training. I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that, Rob.
No, I think it's perfect how you say it.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so another question from Cormac. He's asking about the protein calorie distribution across the day. So maybe timings of when you're eating the protein and how much and when you would eat it across the day.
It's the most basic thing is protein timing is your body needs around every 2 to 3 hours around 25 grams of protein. So that means when you start in the morning at say 7 a.m., then at 10 a.m., then at 1 a.m. or p.m. is that, and then 4, 7, and then late night around 9. That is the protein timing. And you can also combine that on the body weight, and then you need around 0.25 gram a kilogram body weight. So that means when you are around say 60 kilograms, you need around 50 grams of protein in each timing of each period. And it's really funny when I have athletes from England or from Holland or from Germany, we all eat too much meat, fish, or poultry. For example, when you eat chicken wing or you eat chicken fillet for around 100 grams, that contains already around 25 to 30 grams of protein already. So that's really a lot. And your body cannot adapt more than around 20 to 25 grams in one time, in one meal. So it doesn't make sense to eat, for example, 300 grams of chicken fillet at dinner or at lunch.
So being able to space it out and to take it, to take your protein at regular intervals rather than one large sittings. What about for the maybe riders that are smaller, from the 60 kilogram to 65 kilogram riders to the guys that are maybe 90 kilograms plus? Is there a bigger percentage of protein or what to?
Yeah. You need around 0.25 gram of kilogram body weight. So when you are 19 kilograms, you need around say around 25 grams of protein, and when you are 50 kilograms, you need around 12 grams of protein. So then you make a really big difference, because when you're 50 grams, you don't have a lot of muscles. When you are 90 kilograms, yeah, you need more proteins to contain the muscle mass.
Yeah.
That's the whole difference.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, another question here from John about general cooking day to day on a budget to stop snacking. So they want to stop snacking. First of all, maybe that's right or that's wrong. And also cooking day to day on a budget. So I don't know what your budget is, but yeah, how or what best methods to stop snacking? Maybe you want to talk about snacking first of all during the day.
Yeah, when you don't have a proper meal timing during the day, you always will be snacking. And start with the breakfast is one of the most important things during the day, but every meal is really important to have. And when I see a lot of riders from Great Britain, you really eat really less vegetables. So you increase that. You need around 200 to 300 grams of vegetables each day. And the main reason why you need that is not only for the vitamins and the minerals, but you are chewing, and chewing helps yourself and your mind to have a full feeling. And then when you have a full feeling, you don't go and snack anymore.
Yeah. Okay.
And you can eat vegetables for 1 kilogram, for example, and it doesn't contain a lot of calories.
And obviously the nutrient content of the vegetables is adding to the quality of the food and the ability to get better and stay healthier. The immune system is good and whatnot. So, okay, so just another question from Tim, which is on dental care. So how do the top riders who consume numerous gels, energy bars, drinks take care of their teeth? So, a bit of a different question, but yeah, is it a concern? And you know, what is the implications of taking a lot of that sort of sugary
Yeah, it's a really big concern about for all athletes normally. We recommend to go every year at least 2 times to go to the dentist to have to check your tooth, how they are. When you do it regularly, then you can always, the dentist will say what's it's good or not good, and then yeah, it's helping preventing large kind of things, because there are a lot of riders that have tooth problems, and when you don't go to the dentist, yeah, you always will have problems, and always you will have them in the time when you are on a peak in that performance, say do a big event. Other thing what you can do is yeah, it's brush your teeth every time when you are after training, right after lunch, for example. Or drink sugar drink, and then drink a bottle or so, some things with water, for example.
Yeah. Just another question maybe which is quite relevant to this and maybe goes a little hand in hand is this is from a parent who is also a cycle coach with children between 8 and 14, so quite young. They're doing cyclocross races between 15 minutes and 60 minutes. And a few questions is just what do's and don'ts for children of that age, and also should children avoid gels and caffeine, you know, for 8 to 14-year-olds?
Yeah, for when the cyclist race is only 50 minutes, don't use gels, don't use drinks. They have enough energy to finish about 15 minutes. Also the same thing with supplements like caffeine or other kind of things. Don't use it. It makes no sense to use that kind of things. Use it when they are an elite rider, then they have more benefits of that. It makes no sense to use it already when they are really young. The most important thing when they are young, they have to enjoy the cycling. That's the most important thing.
You know, I think unfortunately in our modern world, when we see the amount of caffeine fueled drinks and boost drinks and whatnot that we see in our supermarkets every day, and it really cringes me when I see a 12-year-old boy for breakfast time going into the supermarket to buy a caffeinated drink. to go to school. And unfortunately, the world we live in, they're very ready, and again, a lot of the parents aren't even aware of how damaging such drinks can be, certainly in the short term and the long term. And hopefully that
Yeah,
doesn't filter into the cycling, into the sport, and hopefully people here that are coaching children and being able to get that message across. But again, young children, I've seen myself seeing an under 12 and under 14 taking caffeine gel and asking them why, what do you need this for? Because yeah, again, it's down to education, I suppose. So hopefully, Tim, that answers some questions. And okay, so another question from Ian is nutrition tips for amateur cyclists with busy lives and limited time for training. So maybe somebody who maybe only has half an hour, 45 minutes to train in the evening time. And what nutrition tips would you give them, maybe to maximize their training and to, regulate their weight?
I think then when you have a limited time for training, try to combine it with meals. So say, for example, you normally eat around 7, jump on the bike at 6, then you can do your efforts on the bike, and afterwards you have your dinner or your lunch. Then you combine the meals also with a recovery meal. So it's the same. So you don't need anything more. And then afterwards you can start with the normal working or be a parent for the children, for example.
Mm-hmm. So you're cutting down maybe the calories to an extent that if you were training earlier in the day or later in the evening, you would have to have some sort of recovery fuel, plus also eating a regular meal. But what you're saying is do the training, that the meal is in essence your recovery fuel. So you're nullifying the requirement to take on extra calories for recovery for a particular session. So okay, hopefully that helps. So yeah, we're just going to go on to one last section, which is weight loss. So it was a very common question being asked, as you would assume that many people are interested in weight loss. It's quite iconic that I have a picture of Chris Froome and Alberto Contador. I think not many of us look like that, and hopefully we don't need to look like that. But yeah, so we're going to ask a few questions on this. So this is from Mark, and he's asking a question on controlling or eliminating actually weight gains. A very broad question, but controlling weight gains. So what would be your maybe 2 top tips for controlling any weight gains?
First is what I'll say already before is find a balance in your meal planning during the day. Know what you are eating. When you don't know what you are eating, you always will gain weight again. You can hold that for a few periods, or a few weeks, maybe a month, maybe 2 months, but afterwards you crack down, and then you will eat anything what you can find. And I see it also with the athletes. It's when you have no balance in your nutrition, for say in a hard training day, you go and jump on the bike at 10 a.m., you finish around 4, and then you think, I can wait 2 hours for to have my dinner. But you skip already one meal, and one meal for an athlete that rides on a high level, it's around 800 maybe till 1,000, 1,100 calories. And you can skip that for one day, but day after or the day thereafter, the bill will coming. Then you crack down and you eat so much more, so then you never can have balanced nutrition. So find out what your own balance is, and that is with the apps in these days they have. You can see how many calories you're eating, and you can step on the scale every week, for example, on the same day and the same time. You will see what your body weight is, and if it's going up or going down, you can adjust your meal plan. That's the biggest advice that I can give all the riders or athletes.
And it comes into play whenever riders are traveling a lot and maybe going to training camps or going to places abroad where they maybe don't understand the food, or they're out of their regular foods that they eat. And what you're saying is educating yourself on the type of food, what's in it, how many calories, what's the quantities and the qualities of the food, and making sure that you understand it whenever you're going to different places. You're starting to understand again the qualities of the food, to making sure that you're not putting on weight. I know a lot of guys in the past go on to training camps in Spain or Portugal or somewhere like that, and yeah, they're doing maybe 15%, 20% more hours than what they normally do, but they come back from the camp 2 kilos heavier because they don't understand what's in the buffet. So yeah.
They walk 10 times to the buffet.
Yeah, they walk 10 times to the buffet. So okay, yeah.
And that's one of the goals also when I'm on training camp with the team, is educate the riders what they have to choose. Then I have time to chat with the riders and educate them, and everybody is knowing more and more and more about what they have to eat and how much they have to eat. And it's like going to school. You don't finish your school, high school, in 1 year or 1 month. It takes time, and it's really helping yourself to go into in nutrition. What are proteins and what contains proteins, what contains carbohydrates, and what is the difference between the carbohydrate and the sugar, that kind of things. Makes it more logic for yourself. Then you can make choices.
Yeah. Education, I think, is the key in a lot of things that we've covered there this evening. So, okay. Another question from James is about weight loss. So, not a problem many of us have, but yeah. Okay. So I think they're asking maybe how to lose weight or how to prevent it. I'm not sure, but weight loss. What's your biggest advice maybe on? Okay, let's talk about losing weight. How would you go about it? How would you plan it? Yeah.
Yeah, you have to plan it. And what I just told before, 1 kilogram of fat contains 7 times calories. So that means when you have 7 days in 1 week, when you cut down 1,000 calories each day, you will lose theoretic 1 kilogram in 1 week. But that's way too much for an athlete. So normally I advise to have around 250 calories to 500 calories to cut down every day. And then you will, in general, you lose 1 kilogram, maybe 1.5 kilogram in 1 month. So when you know when your cyclo or your stage race is in May, for example, you can work it out when you have to start with losing weight. And then you can know when you have to balance nutrition, you know your weight is stable. Then you can also adjust a little bit of, you could then cut down a little bit of the calories. At 250 calories, it's really not much. It's, for example, 2 slices of bread in 1 day. So it's really easy to cut down that.
But being disciplined in what you eat, I think, you know, if you're trying to cut just 2 slices of bread and that small amount, you know, making sure what you eat the rest of the time is, is in line with what you would normally eat. So you're getting that calorie deficit, but every so slightly, and keeping that deficit consistent, maybe over 1 week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, to get down to your race weight. Okay, just one last question on this part, and then we're going to go through. I'm going to pick out maybe 3 or 4 questions that has been coming in from the crowd here this evening. Like I say, we've had a really unbelievable attendance here tonight. So obviously it's a great topic and a hot topic to listen to Rob here this evening. So just our last one is in keeping at race weight without feeling like you're starving yourself. Somebody who's already at the race weight, but how do they maintain it without feeling like they're starving themselves and it being difficult to keep it that?
Yeah, when you're already, for example, the race weight is, you want to have the race weight in May. I think the 1 month before you have to already reach that, so that means April. So you cut down a little bit of the energy in the weeks before, in the month before, and when you are race weight, it's a nice thing when you are finished there. Then you can increase already your the total amount of calories again, because when you don't add extra calories, you will lose again more body weight, and that you want to avoid. So when you're already finished already on the good weight, then you can add already the good calories, and then you can maintain the body weight. It's really easy.
Okay. So maybe people are hitting their race weight just too short of a time before their maybe chosen event, chosen race, and so you're saying to try and make sure you're at the race weight a little further behind, a little further before the actual target event.
Yeah, yeah, that's the most important thing, because then you have also a little bit of timing to adjust a little bit more. When you want to finish your body weight and in July, in the first week of July, and you don't be there, it's mentally also hard.
Mm-hmm.
Shit, I don't reach the goal, so you have to avoid that.
Okay. Okay, so one of the very popular questions that has been coming into us here this evening is about fasted rides, Rob. Okay, so about training on empty, training pre-breakfast, and training maybe with just protein. So what is your views on, getting better adaptions? Is it something that you do? Is it something that the Giant Alpecin team use to help adaptions? What's your thoughts on this?
It's really depending on if you are a pro or not be a pro. I think when you are people that have to work 50 or 60 hours a week, then you have to train in the most efficient way when it's possible. So that means that you need the carbohydrates. But when you have time and time to rest, like a pro, then it's sometimes really good to have another kind of training. Another kind of training means that you can have a low sugar ride or an empty stomach ride, that kind of things. And then you get an extra adaptation about training. And it's like training on efforts with sprints or long efforts. Then you can also time and do something with your nutrition. But it's really hard for people when they are working, and I don't recommend to do that, because it has the benefits are so small to doing that, and you have to really be in discipline in what you are eating, because when you have a sober ride for 4 hours or 5 hours, afterwards you are starving, and then you are going to eat a lot more calories that you want to have.
Mm-hmm.
So then the whole benefits are gone.
Yeah, so you're nullifying the desired effects maybe by consuming too many calories after training than what you would do if you had maybe had a breakfast. What about just starting on a protein-rich breakfast or protein-rich nutrition before starting the training? So maybe we're not taking any carbohydrates, but maybe just protein. Would that be something you would look at? Maybe different to going completely on empty?
Yeah, it can be good for yourself, because when you have the proteins, you contain your muscle mass, your protein intake. It's in the most stable way. But my question is, I think when you're doing that for 3 hours or 4 hours, your glycogen source will be empty, and then it gives an extra kind of training adaptation. But be aware that you don't going to eat more than you normally do.
Mm-hmm. And again, we're coming into the off season, and a lot of guys are going to be starting their winter preparation very soon. And some of the other observations that I've seen from amateur riders and from maybe guys wanting to head towards elite is that they have the perception, let's go on empty on a 5-hour ride on a Saturday and a Sunday, and it lowers their immune system. They're by the time the following week comes around, they're extremely tired. They're maybe on the brink of getting a cold because they've went on empty, and maybe they haven't been as disciplined or eaten correctly when they've got off the bike, or even during the ride they haven't taken the correct amount to make the training productive, and also being able to adapt from the training, and then they're off sick for 1 week because they've been trying to ride fasted. Again, it's a big problem that we of course see. One other question here is about fruit. Is it possible to really eat too much fruit? And is there a difference in the sugar between fruit and the sugar in chocolate? So yeah.
The sugar in chocolate is normally glucose, and fruit is fructose. That's the different kind of sugar already, and fructose a little bit is a slower sugar than glucose. That's the big difference between that. And yes, you can eat too much fruit. When you look to your, when you eat a lot of, let's say around 10 slices of fruit, if you drink a lot of orange juice or pineapple juice, all those kind of things, it can also increase your triglycerides in your blood, and that's really bad for your liver. That's also the reason that that all the drinks of glucose and fructose have a combination of 2 to 1. When you have only fructose, it can damage your liver.
Okay. Okay. So making sure that you're getting the right sort of sugar, and
Yeah.
probably best to avoid eating lots of chocolate is
Yeah.
is certainly something something you want to do. Is there one other or two other types of nutrition strategies that you see many amateur athletes get wrong that the professional riders do right? So, what are the keys that maybe you see the professional riders do right, and maybe that we should all take stock of and actually learn from? So what is your maybe one or two areas that you see that they really do right that we should really learn from?
That they have timed the nutrition meals during the day. That's really important. What I just said before also is that when you skip one meal a day, yeah, it's really difficult to get back of that kind of calories, and in one day it's going to be out. So when we are on training camp and we start training at 10 a.m. for example, and we go out for a 6-hour ride, then we are back at 4, and then we have lunch, and then around 8 we have dinner. It's also normal for the riders that are in races when they finish at 6. At the earliest time they have dinner, when they are really lucky, is around 8. And maybe it's around 9 or 10 when they have a grand tour, because there's really a lot of traveling in that kind of races. So think about what's going to happen, and when you have time for your meals, think up front, and then you can plan everything what you want.
Okay. And just one last question, purely from a cycling fan point of view. I know you're part of the team that same Tom Dumoulin have such a fantastic Vuelta a España this year. I'm sure a lot of people here tonight witnessed Tom's epic performance, and we know you're obviously working with him and working with them to try and bring him round into such a Grand Tour rider. So is there anything you can tell us maybe on maybe what Tom did, how he changed, and what you might have seen it was different for him in the last couple of months, and how he had such a fantastic performance? Because I think most of us here all absolutely loved watching him race over that 3 weeks.
Yeah, me also. But Tom was a really difficult time after in the Tour de France when he crashed, and he had problems with his arm. Yeah, the first week he didn't train. He cannot train, and then some kind of way he get again motivated, because about the new goals in the season. He want to do the main goal after that was to have a really good Vuelta. But more important was the world's time trial. So he went training again, and he trained really hard at altitude in Italy the week before. And he told me also before the training he did, he was probably harder than the Vuelta he was expecting that it will be. But in another kind of way, the Vuelta a little bit changed the plans for everybody, and also in our team. We never thought about that Tom was this good in this Vuelta. So we have to adjust the plans, and see what you all know what happened. He cracked in the last day. But yeah, it is also the first time that Tom has to work for 3 weeks. Normally he has always some easy days between in the mountains, but now I think it's very normal when you have a 3-week stage race. Your body has to work on that, and it takes time and years. with training adaptation, that kind of things, to finish a Grand Tour in the top 5 place, I think.
And how much weight had he lost compared to maybe what he had done in previous years or previous Grand Tours? Was he a much different weight?
No, I think he only lost maximum 1.5 kilogram between say March and September. So it's really stable during the whole year. And that's also with nutrition.
Okay. Everything's stable still. Well, listen, yeah, thank you very much for everybody attending here this evening. We've had a lot of people coming in. Apologies to anybody who didn't get their questions answered, but we'll be able to chat in the future. If anybody would like to work with Rob van der Werf personally, we have numerous packages that has the ability to work with Tom and work on some personal nutrition strategy. So just send us an email to info@digdeepcoaching.com. Also, we have a broad range of training packages from personalized coaching to 6 and 12-week plans, power meters and turbo trainers, of course, for this time of year. And again, if there's anything, please contact us on that. And we'll send out the recording in the next couple of days. Keep an eye out for more webinars, live webinars and recorded webinars that will be coming out during the coming months. And I'd just like to say thank you very much for everybody who was attending this evening. Rob?
You're welcome.
Thank you very much, everybody, and we look forward to seeing you at the next one. So, okay, bye-bye, everybody. Night-night.